You've been feeling it, haven't you? That heaviness in the air? That unspoken tension deep in your chest? That invisible pressure that makes no sense in the natural world, but somehow your soul recognizes it. You're not imagining it. You're not making it up. You're sensing something that goes beyond what the eye can see. And Archangel Michael wants you to know you're not crazy. You're awake. You're discerning. And what you're feeling is real, because the battle you're in right now, it's not physical. It's spiritual. It's the kind of battle that doesn't always show up as obvious chaos, but sometimes is quiet discouragement. It hides in confusion. It twists the truth subtly. It makes you question your own intuition, your own calling, your own worth. That's how it works. Because if the enemy can't destroy you outright, he'll do everything to distract you, to delay you, to wear you down until you surrender, not with a scream, but with a sigh. That's why Archangel Michael has come close, because this battle is not meant to be fought alone. You don't need sharper weapons. You need deeper awareness, Michael reminds you. This is not a war of flesh and blood. This is a war of light and shadow. And the reason you've felt under pressure lately is not because you're weak, it's because you're dangerous to darkness. You're carrying something the enemy fears, a frequency, a mission, a light that has the power to disrupt what's been hidden for generations. And yes, the resistance has grown, but so has your authority. Every spiritual battle is a mirror, not of your defeat, but of your assignment. The enemy doesn't attack what isn't a threat. And if you've been wondering why the road has felt harder lately, Michael wants to whisper this to your spirit. It's because you're walking in the right direction. The lies you've battled, they're not random. They're strategic. They're designed to target the parts of you that are waking up, the parts that are beginning to believe again, to trust again, to pray with power again. And that's why discernment is more important now than ever. Its battle isn't being fought with fists, it's being fought in thoughts. It's in intentions and energy. Michael says it's not about what's happening around you, it's about what's trying to influence what's within you. That's where the real war is. And you're not powerless in this. In fact, you're equipped. You've been given divine armor, not made of metal, but of presence, of clarity, of truth. And Michael stands as a guardian of that truth, not to fight for you, but to fight with you, to remind you of what you carry, to anchor you when fear tries to unseat you. He wants you to stop seeing your challenges as punishments and start seeing them as proof that you're on sacred ground. That your very existence is disrupting old patterns. That the generational cycles you've chosen to break, they don't go down without a fight. But you are not just here to endure. You're here to shift atmospheres. That's why your prayers matter more than you realize. That's why your voice carries weight in the spirit every time you speak life. Where others have cursed, you are battling. Every time you choose peace when chaos is expected, you are battling. Every time you forgive instead of retaliate, you are battling. These are spiritual victories that ripple through realms. Michael wants you to see yourself not as a victim of spiritual warfare, but as a warrior awakening within it. The anxiety you've been feeling, it's not always yours. The weariness, it's the echo of something trying to cling to you, hoping you won't notice. But now you do notice. Now you see. Now you know. And that's power. Because awareness is your weapon, discernment is your shield, and truth is your sword. This is why grounding yourself in spiritual truth is essential now. Not because fear is winning, but because you're being positioned to lead, maybe quietly, maybe invisibly, but in realms that matter more than status or applause. The Spirit sees you. Heaven hears you. And Archangel Michael is surrounding you with the frequency of clarity so you can navigate this season with precision. He's saying, do not fight spiritual battles with emotional reactions. Fight with light. Fight with alignment. Fight with peace that cannot be provoked. And you don't need to understand everything to walk in victory. You just need to stay aligned, stay grounded, stay open. You are not being attacked because you are weak. You are being activated because you are ready. And now the question is not, how do I survive this? The question is, what is this teaching my soul? Because every spiritual battle comes bearing a gift, a deeper authority, a greater sensitivity, a sharper clarity. You're not being broken. You're being built. The tension is not your enemy. The tension is the training ground. And Archangel Michael is standing watch not just beside you, but within the frequency of your awakening. He is not afraid of the dark, he commands it. He doesn't react, he sees. And now you are learning to do the same. Asterisk. Because once your eyes open, they don't close again. You begin to notice the subtleties, how certain conversations drain you, how certain environments carry residue. You realize it's not about being overly sensitive. It's about being spiritually attuned. The more light you carry, the more you notice what's not aligned with it. And that noticing, that's not weakness. That's warfare. Quiet warfare. The kind that doesn't draw swords but draws boundaries. The kind that doesn't scream but shifts. Michael is teaching you the art of spiritual precision, knowing when to speak and when to remain still. Of knowing when to walk away, not out. Of fear, but out of clarity. This is how spiritual warriors operate, not in chaos, but in calm authority. And make no mistake, peace is not passive. It's power that refuses to be provoked. Michael walks with those who choose this higher way. He reminds you, your strength is not in how loudly you react, but in how deeply you remain aligned. And that's what the battle is about, your alignment. Not just your outer actions, but your inner posture. The enemy wants to tilt your focus, to distract your energy, to keep you in loops of fear, shame, and confusion. But you weren't made for cycles. You were made for ascension. And this path you're on, it's not just about winning a single battle. It's about shifting your whole frequency into a higher reality. This is why Archangel Michael is so close to you now, not because you're failing, but because you're graduating. You're moving from reaction to revelation, from striving to surrender, from surface to source. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it sometimes feels like everything is falling apart. But it's not falling apart, it's falling away. Everything that cannot go with you into this next chapter is being removed, is being unraveled. That's the purge you've been feeling. That's the pressure. And Michael says, let it go. What you release makes room for what's holy. This is the part of the spiritual battle most people avoid the releasing, the quiet deaths, the soft goodbyes to identities that no longer fit, the shedding of personas built out of protection instead of authenticity. But this is how you rise. You don't climb the mountain by carrying everything. You climb it by remembering who you are without the weight, and you, beloved soul, are already enough without the mask, without the performance, without the constant need to prove. Your power is in your presence, in your clarity, in your divine essence. You don't have to fight like the world fights. You were never called to blend in with chaos. You were created to be a contrast to it. That's why it feels like your spirit no longer tolerates what you once accepted. It's not because you've changed in a negative way. It's because your discernment has evolved. You're seeing things as they are, not as you wish them to be. And Michael wants you to trust that vision. Trust your knowing. Trust the gentle nudges that tell you when something's off, even when it looks good on the surface. Because the spiritual battle is rarely about what's obvious. It's about the unseen, the intentions, the energies, the agreements we make with fear without even realizing it. But now, you're conscious. Now, you're choosing differently. And that's everything. You're not fighting for victory. You're fighting from victory. Michael wants you to hold that truth close. The outcome is already written. The light wins. The shadows scatter. But the journey, this path you're walking, is where your soul gains wisdom. This is where your faith gets forged. This is where you learn to hear the still, small voice in the middle of the noise. This is where heaven trains your hands for battle, not with fists, but with fire. Not the fire that burns, but the fire that purifies. That's why so much is surfacing. Right now, to shame you, but to free you. You're not being exposed. You're being invited to step into deeper alignment, to walk in radical truth, to carry a frequency that dismantles deception just by being present. Michael reminds, you don't need to defend yourself when you're standing in divine truth. The light will always reveal what needs to be seen. So rest your heart, even in the tension. Breathe deeply. Ground yourself in the knowing that this battle is not personal, it's spiritual.
Oh.
It's not about what they said or what they did. It's about what's being shifted through you for the sake of generations to come. You're standing in the middle of a lineage shift. You're breaking patterns that have lasted centuries. You're saying yes to healing that your ancestors never felt safe enough to choose. You're walking paths that have been blocked by fear for decades. You're lighting fires in places that have known only darkness. And yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's hard. But you were made for it. Michael walks beside those on assignment, strengthens their resolve. He anchors their clarity. And he whispers to your soul, you are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. Every delay was divine. Every detour was sacred. Are not in this battle because you're lost. You're in it because you've been found. Heaven has eyes on you not to pressure, but to protect. You are not failing. You are forging the strength you're discovering now. It's not just for you. It's for those who come after you, to the ones watching you silently, but the souls your life will ripple into without you ever knowing. So lift your head, wipe your tears. Remember, you are not weak because you feel this deeply. You are not wrong because you question. You are not alone because it hurts. You are rising. You're remembering. You are reclaiming what darkness tried to bury, and the battle is not over, not yet. But neither is your story, not even close. Asterisk. Because just when you think you've reached your breaking point, that's when something ancient inside you begins to awaken. It's not a voice you hear with your ears. It's a resonance, a frequency, a divine remembrance that whispers. You've been here before and you made it through then too. This isn't the end. It's the rising. It's the shaking off of what never belonged to you. The unraveling of false identities, the reclaiming of sacred truth. And Archangel Michael stands over you like a flame that never flickers. Even when the winds of adversity blow strong, he doesn't promise an easiest road, but he promises a holy one. You are not here to be comfortable. You are here to be transformed. And sometimes, the fire you're standing in is not to destroy you, but to reveal what can't be burned. What's eternal. What's real. What's you, Michael whispers. The real battle isn't what's happening outside of you, it's what's being forged inside of you. And your soul is winning, because you've chosen to stand in love when bitterness called. You've chosen to stay soft when the world told you to harden. You've chosen to keep praying when silence was deafening. And every one of those choices was warfare, holy, sacred warfare. This isn't about religion. This is about resonance. It's about the frequency you carry, the vibration you emit when your spirit is aligned with divine truth. When you walk into a room and shift the atmosphere, not because you're loud, but because you're anchored. When your presence speaks louder than your words, because heaven walks with you. That's why the opposition has felt so personal. It's because your light is piercing realms. And Michael wants you to stop shrinking just to make others comfortable. Stop dimming to avoid attention. Stop apologizing for carrying what's holy. You were not made to blend in with the noise. You were made to disrupt it. This is why you felt the pressure increase. Because the closer you come to the truth of who you are, the more the illusions around you begin to fall apart. But that's not chaos, that's clarity. It's the undoing of what was built on sand, so the foundation of your soul can rise in. Stone and Michael, with his sword of truth, is not here to fix your world, he's here to reveal your power within it. He speaks not in condemnation, but in conviction. He doesn't tell you what to think, he reminds you of what you already know. Because your spirit remembers. Before the pain, before the confusion, before the world tried to name you, you were light, you were truth, you were free. And this battle you're in now, it's not just for you. It's ancestral, it's generational, it's collective. Not only breaking your own chains, you're breaking chains that have wrapped around bloodlines for centuries. That's why it feels heavy. But heaviness isn't always a sign you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's proof you're carrying something holy. Michael stands beside those who carry sacred assignments. Not to take the burden from them, but to remind them they are strong enough to carry it with grace, with wisdom, with clarity. Most of all, with love. Love is not the absence of war. Love is the weapon that wins it. Not the soft kind, the fierce kind, the love that sets boundaries, that walks away from manipulation, speaks truth without shame, it chooses healing over history. And right now, that kind of love is rising inside of you. It's burning through your fear. It's dismantling every false narrative that said you weren't worthy, that you weren't enough, that you weren't chosen. Michael says, you've always been chosen. You just forgot. But now you remember. And because you remember, you're powerful again. That's what spiritual warfare is afraid of. Not your perfection, but your remembrance. Because once you remember who you are, the lies can no longer land. The darkness loses its grip, and the battle shifts not because it gets easier, but because you get stronger. You begin to speak differently. You move with intention. You listen with discernment. You pray with authority, and your very existence becomes a weapon. Not a weapon that wounds, but one that awakens. Your healing becomes a threat to strongholds. Your clarity becomes a beacon. Your presence becomes prophetic, because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs presence. It needs the kind of soul that walks in peace, even when the storm rages. And that's who you're becoming. Michael stands with those who refuse to give in to fear, not because they don't feel it, but because they no longer let it lead. He is reminding you now, you are not a victim of spiritual warfare. You are a witness to divine authority. In this moment, you're in its holy, even if it feels messy, even if it's breaking your heart open, because sometimes the breaking is what makes room for the blessing. You don't need to fix everything. Right now, you don't need all the answers. You just need to keep showing up to truth, to love, to alignment, and watch how heaven aligns with you. Because this battle may be invisible to the world, but it is not invisible to the heavens. Michael sees you. The Spirit surrounds you. And your soul is rising like never before. Asterisk. Because once your soul begins to rise, everything that isn't aligned with that elevation starts to resist. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally doing something right. That resistance you're feeling, it's not failure. That's friction. Friction between the old version of you and the truth that's now breaking through. An archangel. Michael is still here, closer than ever, sword, drawn not to destroy, but to defend what's sacred within you. You see, this isn't about attacking others or proving anything. It's about protecting your energy, guarding your gates, staying in alignment when everything around you tries to pull you back into the storm. Michael is not asking you to be perfect. He's asking you to be awake, because the spiritual battle doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like distraction. It looks like endless scrolling, numbing, avoiding. It looks like staying busy so you never have to be still. It looks like performing for acceptance when you were already approved by God. But now your soul is tired of pretending. It's done settling for superficial. It's craving something eternal. And that craving, that hunger for truth, is the very thing that makes you dangerous to the darkness. You're not weak because you're feeling everything. You're strong because you've stopped running from it. And Michael reminds you that greatest warriors are not those who never fall, but those who rise again and again, with more love, more clarity, and more light than before. This is the battlefield, right here. The thoughts that rise before you speak. In the choices you make when no one is watching, in the way you speak to yourself when you're at your lowest. Gosh, that's where the war is won. Because when you begin to love yourself with the same intensity that heaven loves you, things shift, chains break, patterns dissolve, and you realize you don't have to fight for your worth. You never had to. You were worthy before the pain, before the trauma, before the mistakes. You were never disqualified. You were disguised, but now the disguise is falling away. The masks are slipping, the illusions are breaking. And in the ashes of what was, something sacred is forming your true self. Not the self shaped by survival, but the self born of spirit. Michael is walking with you through that fire, whispering, keep going. The version of you that's emerging from this will carry heaven wherever they go. You don't need to explain your journey to those who can't see it. You don't need to justify your growth. Not everyone will understand the spiritual war you're in, and that's okay. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be transformed. Let them misunderstand you. Let them judge your silence. Let them think you're distant. You're not withdrawing, you're ascending. And ascension always requires separation. That's part of the cost. The higher you go, the lighter you must travel. Not out of coldness, but out of clarity. Some connections are beautiful for one season, but heavy for the next. And you are entering a season that demands truth without compromise. Michael says, don't fear the loss. What is real will remain. What is divine will return in higher form. This is not punishment, it's positioning. God is moving people, patterns, and pieces in your life to prepare you for what's coming. The battle is not just about protection, it's about preparation. Because you're not only healing, you're being equipped. The storms you've survived weren't just painful, they were prophetic. They shaped the way you pray, the way you lead, the way you discern. You're not the same person you were a year ago. That's not by accident. That's by design. Heaven has been crafting your character in the hidden places, teaching you how to walk in humility without shrinking, how to carry fire without burning others, how to stand in power without losing tenderness. You are being refined, not rejected, chosen, not cast out, set apart, not forgotten. And every time you keep showing up, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, you send a message into the atmosphere. I may bend, but I will not break. I may weep, but I will still walk. I may battle, but I will not bow to fear, because the Spirit of the living God lives in you. And Michael, the warrior of light, stands beside you, reminding you of what's eternally truth, that no weapon formed against you will prosper, not because of your strength, but because of your position. You are seated in spiritual authority. Even when you feel surrounded, you are surrounded by light, surrounded by grace, surrounded by angels, and this is your moment to stand in it. Say no to anything that dulls your glow, to break every agreement you made in fear, to reclaim your time, your focus, your boundaries, your energy. This is how the battle is won, by choosing peace even when chaos begs for your attention, by choosing alignment when distraction knocks at your door, by choosing faith when doubt whispers every reason to give up. But you won't give up, because your spirit has tasted the truth. And once you've tasted it, there's no going back. Michael knows this. He sees you. He honors the war. You're fighting the quiet one, the one nobody claps for, the one that happens in the stillness. And he's saying, keep going. You are doing better than you think. What you carry is too holy to quit now. It's really are not alone in this. Every time you choose light, you're not just winning a moment, you're shifting a legacy, asterisk. Because when you realize the war is spiritual, you stop wasting energy fighting battles that don't matter. You stop engaging with every insult. You stop chasing closure from people who were never meant to understand your mission. Stop arguing with shadows when you were meant to stand in the light. Archangel Michael is not calling you to petty battles. He's calling you to holy ground. He's calling you to rise above, to ascend, not escape, to walk in clarity, not confusion. Because the enemy of your soul doesn't need to destroy you if it can distract you. It's already won half the war, and Michael leans in close, with fire in his voice and tenderness in his gaze, and says, you were not made to fight everything. You were made to discern what's worth your spirit. You've been giving too much of your energy to what doesn't deserve access to your light. And this isn't selfishness, it's stewardship. Your time, your voice, your peace, your presence, they are sacred. They are not for sale to the lowest bidder of attention or approval. You are created for something higher, something deeper, something eternal. The real battle isn't about how loud you shout, it's about how clear your alignment is. When your soul is aligned with truth, your very breath becomes a prayer. Your silence becomes a statement. Your rest becomes resistance. And your joy becomes a weapon. That's why you've been attacked in the very places you were meant to shine. That's why your voice has been under fire. Why your confidence has been shaken. Because those are the areas where your calling lives. When you reclaim them, you don't just reclaim your power, you reclaim your purpose. This isn't about becoming someone new. This is about returning to who you were before the world told you to shrink. Michael's sword is not just for defense. It's for cutting away every lie that wrapped around your identity. Every fear that told you you were too much, too broken, too late. You are right on time. The world may not recognize your transformation, but heaven does. The world may overlook the tears you've cried in silence, but the Spirit has caught every one. And those tears, those sacred offerings, have watered seeds in the invisible realm. Seeds that are about to bloom in ways that will leave even your enemies in awe. Because God does not waste pain. God does not ignore battles fought in silence. And God does not overlook those who keep choosing love in a world gone cold. Michael stands beside you now, not with condemnation, but with courage. He speaks to the part of you that has always known you were born for this moment, this awakening. This shift in your spirit. You were not meant to blend into this world. You were meant to bless it, to shift it, to illuminate it. And sometimes, that light makes people uncomfortable, but that's okay. You weren't sent to coddle comfort. You were sent to carry truth. And truth isn't always popular. But it's always powerful. You've been anointed for such a time as this. Not when you feel ready, but now. In the middle of the mess, in the midst of the unknown. Right where you are, just as you are. Because God doesn't call the flawless. God calls the faithful. And you've been showing up in the dark, holding space for others when you needed someone to hold space for you. Praying when you didn't have words. Believing when everything around you said to give up. And that kind of faith, it moves mountains. In the unseen, Michael wants you to know, your obedience is opening doors that hustle never could. So keep choosing what aligns with your soul, not what flatters your ego. Keep walking away from anything that costs you your peace. Keep staying close to the fire of truth, even when it burns away everything false, because you are not losing, you are shedding. And what's being removed was never meant to come with you to the next level. This is the recalibration, the refinement, the redefinition of who you are, not by circumstance, but by spirit. You are not your trauma. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are the evidence that healing is possible. You are the vessel that carries what this world desperately needs: presence, and that presence, yes, when rooted in the divine, becomes a force that no spiritual opposition can touch. So let the battle rage. Let the illusions crumble. Let the old fall away. Because what's being revealed is not weakness. It's warriorhood. Not the kind with armor made of anger, but one made of awareness. A warrior who doesn't just fight to win, but fights to heal. Michael walks with warriors like you. Those who bleed in silence. Those who worship with wounds still open. Those who rise not because they have to, but because they refuse not to. And now, more than ever, the call is clear. Stay anchored. Stay aligned. Stay awake. The spiritual battle isn't coming, it's already here. But so are your weapons. So is your covering. So is your authority. You were made for this war. Not because you were invincible, but because you are indestructible when you stand in truth. And truth is what you carry now. Because once you've seen the truth, you can't unsee it. Once your soul has awakened, you can't go back to sleep. Not comfortably, not fully, not without something inside you stirring, whispering, you were made for more than this. Archangel Michael doesn't just walk beside you in moments of strength. He stands guard over your spirit in your most fragile hours. When you felt abandoned, he was there. When you doubted your worth, he was there. When the night stretched too long and the prayers felt unanswered, he was still there. Because he's not a symbol of perfection, he's a reminder of presence. Divine presence. Warrior presence. The kind of presence that does not flinch in the face of darkness, but instead declares, "Let there be light here." Michael is not here to make the war disappear. He's here to show you that it never had. Power over who you are. The real youth, the eternal, radiant, spirit-led. You cannot be touched by fear. Cannot be held down by the past. It cannot be dimmed by rejection. It was made from the breath of God, shaped by the fire of truth, and carried through the wilderness so it would remember what it's carrying and what you're carrying now. It's not just survival. It's not just recovery. It's revelation. You've seen too much, learned too much, grown too much to play small again. You've come too far to go back to who you were before the fire. And though the scars remain, they're not marks of shame. They are proof that the flame didn't destroy you. It refined you. So now, with sword in hand and spirit awakened, Archangel Michael reminds you, you are not here to escape the darkness. You are here to bring light into it. This is why the battle has been so intense. This is why the attacks felt personal, because they were. Because your voice threatens the silence of lies. Because your healing exposes the agenda of pain. Because your joy disrupts the narrative of fear. You are a holy disruption. A sacred interruption to everything the enemy hoped would continue. And now, every step you take in truth becomes a ripple in the spirit. Every moment you choose peace instead of panic, forgiveness instead of revenge, love instead of bitterness, you are reclaiming territory that was never meant to be occupied by fear. This is what spiritual warfare looks like in the quiet moments. It's not just casting out demons, it's casting out self-doubt. It's not just praying loudly, it's living wisely. It's showing up for yourself and others with compassion, with conviction, with clarity. Michael is equipping you now with vision, with discernment, with the kind of spiritual intelligence that allows you to see through the surface, to detect what is of God and what is not, to say yes only when your spirit agrees, and to say no without guilt when that no protects your peace. You are no longer a passive participant in your own life. You are not waiting for the storm to pass. You are learning to dance in the downpour. Speak in the thunder and hear God's voice in the wind. This is divine maturity. This is spiritual awakening. This is where you stop praying to be rescued and start praying for revelation, because you don't need to be saved from your path. You need to be reminded of your power on it. And Archangel Michael is that reminder. Every time you've lost your footing, he's whispered, stand again. Every time your hope has flickered, he's covered it with his wings. Every time your heart broke, he held it in the unseen, gently shaping it into something stronger. Heaven has always been fighting for you even when you didn't know the words to pray. Even when your only prayer was a sigh or a tear or the decision to keep breathing, and that was enough. You were never required to be flawless, only faithful. And now, here you are, not perfect, but powerful, not unscarred, but unbroken. And that version of you, the one who has learned to trust God in the dark, that version is unstoppable. So what now? Now you rise. Now you remember. Now you walk like the battle has already been won, because in the spirit it has. Michael goes before you. He clears the air. He cuts through confusion. He releases clarity. And most of all, he protects the promise on your life. Don't forget that. Don't forget who walks with you. Don't forget who you are, because this just need more noise. It needs light bearers. That's what you've become, not because you sought power, but because you surrendered to purpose. So go forward now, not afraid, but anointed, not drained, but divinely energized, not lost, but led by the Spirit. The war may be ongoing, but your identity is secure. The battle may rage, but the victory is sealed. You are not fighting for victory, you are fighting from it, and that changes everything. So keep walking, keep praying, keep choosing truth. When you feel weary, pause, but don't quit. Heaven's army walks with you. Michael walks with you. And you walk in light.